Hey, Same Dad Podcast fans. We're back here again for another great episode of wonderful storytelling and fantastic information today. This is Jesse and my half sister, Kellie. I made the mistake and called us step siblings before, and I took a lot of heat for that from the wife, so I fixed it, made sure to say it right this time. We have the same dad and no other siblings that we know of.
So while we're on that, let's just, I mean, so I have obviously a family, and it's kind of late dinner time. It is summer. Like I said, it's July 21st, 21. So you're going to hear some cooking in the background. This is just, low rent recordings of just ramblings. And so that's what you might expect. But there's some folks in the background cooking some dinner. Don't worry about that. We are, what we said we were going to do is, as half siblings, is kind of share some of the, I guess, the sense of humor, the perceptions, the things that we notice that we most often contribute to what we got from dad. And so a lot of times we'll bring up some things that maybe don't always resonate with everybody right away, but I think as we round out the stories, a lot of times the themes come from being a Midwestern kid. They come from being kids that were kind of focused on I would say, kind of lowbrow humor from time to time. Nothing wrong with that. We both have some life experiences that we're kind of willing to share that we think maybe will benefit or at least connect with others. So that's kind of where we started. So one of the things that started some of our ideas was the recently we here in the Midwest, 4-H and state fair is a big deal. And I know that Jesse's wife can attest to this, but if you grow up in the Midwest, the state fair is the culmination of everything summer. And so last evening, we didn't ironically have any kids in the house. And so my husband and I decided, well, what's for dinner? And he texts me and says, well, the 4-H fair is what's for dinner. So we headed over to about 20-minute drive to the local 4-H fair in our county. And let me tick through the menu if this sounds good to anyone. Normally, when I would arrive, the first thing I would get, which is what we did, we got our hot buttered corn on the cob, which that's a no-brainer. We're in Indiana, so that's what you go for. And then we looked around, and the corn dog is usually on the menu, and of course we shared a corn dog. And then finally we ended up with what I thought was going to be, we usually go for the Italian sausage, but instead we made an odd right turn, and we went for the lamb gyro. And so that was pretty good. We didn't have a lemon shake up, but we had a big, nice plastic collapsible straw full of, I think, Diet Pepsi is what we chose. But, for the most part, not having any kids with us, we didn't consider any rides, but we ate the food, of course, and then walked through the art show. So if you know what the 4-H art show entails, I took some photos, and I think I'm going to put some up on some of our social media channels. You'll get a kick out of this, and you'll enjoy kind of seeing what the local kiddos coming back to 4-H after COVID. They were pretty good projects. So so that's being a Midwestern kid. I mean, that's summer to us. So when's the last time you went to a 4-H fair, Jess?
Oh, the one there in town. It's been years. Used to go there with Mom. She'd take me there on a weekday afternoon and get the elephant ear, walk around there, see the sights, the local culture. I always remember the big balls of sheep's wool or whatever the hell it was. It always looked like Remember that old Star Trek episode of the Tribbles? It's just like a big old pile of tribbles over there, and then all the neat projects and whatnot. And I remember those. And I remember one time I got some nachos. Me and Mom did, and some nut job I didn't even know asked me if he could have a chip. He didn't get one.
No.
I gave him a chip in the dome. But yeah, it was pretty wild. A lot of weird characters. We went during the day. I couldn't even imagine at night. I imagine Joe Dirt's probably out there somewhere running the Ferris wheel.
Well, what I can tell you is this: after our visit last night, there is a write-up in today's paper. Of course, there's an article every evening once the 4-H fair starts, because that's the size of our paper, basically. And so, last night I noticed this booth that had some, they were selling products that I think would be offensive to some, and then maybe, exciting to others. And I'm just going to leave it there. But of course, he got a write up in the local paper about, how did this vendor get through? How did they get approved? And so, the local Kiwanis Club is all in an uproar about how in the world does such a vendor in this day and age, come through the cracks. So, that's pretty much the storyline for our local 4-H fair. What I can say is, and it's nothing like Iowa's, so shout out to who, Indiana State Fair really, all of our county fairs kind of feed into what the culmination is of the state fair. And I would never underestimate what that is and what that's been for us in the summers, but nothing like the Iowa State Fair, I've heard. What do you know about the Iowa State Fair, Jesse?
Well, it's awesome. I mean, it's it's worth its weight in gold. I'll tell you. I've only been once, believe it or not. I went with Nicole. I don't know if we were married yet or not. We might have been dating. Yeah, it's awesome. It's on the Time magazine, like, bucket list of things to do in your lifetime. And it's she has family. They actually have an RV spot there right on site, like right in the fair. And we visited them for a little bit, and they do a bunch of concerts there, and they get a lot of people you wouldn't think that they would get a menagerie of people, like up and coming country music guys. And then they had I think before it got canceled last year, they had Slipknot lined up, because they're the pride of Iowa. They're from Des Moines. They're from Des Moines, if you didn't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're from Des Moines. I can't tie a Slipknot to save my life. I failed out of Boy Scouts. I was only in there for a few months, and we run out of money. But that's another story too.
Oh, the local chapter.
Tie knots in a blown out shack. But,
oh, God.
But yeah, they got a cow made of butter out there, and all kinds of stuff. And the concert's so loud you can hear it anyway, just walking around, and they got anything you can fry and put on a stick. They got it. They got sticks of butter on a stick, macaroni and cheese on a stick. Hell, they probably got a stick on a stick. But they got a big ski lift, and you get on it, and it goes over the whole entire thing. And the people look like ants, just thousands of people. That's the shot that's in all the magazines and the postcards, is that ski lift shot, like over the top of the whole thing. It's pretty wild. I'd say if the viewers out there have any comment or anything they'd like to say, speak up about their state fair. But I'm telling you, the Iowa State Fair that's the real deal Holyfield right there. I mean, I think just acres of stuff, just all kinds of stuff to do. I'm probably going to try to go maybe this year or next, depending on how things are. I don't know what the status even is of it with COVID and everything, but yeah, it's pretty awesome. I suggest if anybody can make the pilgrimage to Iowa for that, I definitely would suggest it.
Yeah, that's a great shout out to Iowa. So
yeah,
I may have to make that pilgrimage myself.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, pretty cool.
Well, we kind of pivoting a little bit, we talked about what started this podcast for us, or not so much started it, but, for a couple months, we've been kind of throwing some themes around that seem to kind of resonate or connect with what we were thinking that would come to mind in these conversations. And really, these started with campfire conversations. You and I grew up, whenever Dad we'd be together on a weekend, and Dad had the fire pit going, and maybe even as we got older, a little beer flowing. Those conversations about family, about memories, and Dad's perspective really kind of set the tone. A lot of ghost stories we talk about, and I think it's important as we begin this podcast to really kind of pay homage to him, and that I don't think he realized he really had that kind of influence on us. I think, as in Dad's words, he was just kind of bullshitting around, and we would just kind of laugh. And that was kind of how we interacted with Dad, or at least when we would get together on weekends. And little did we know that there was such a strong thread of, perception and just storytelling that kind of is maybe ingrained in us, and we didn't realize it. So I kind of wanted to pay homage to Dad a little bit on that tonight. And the one thing that I can tell you is that I still live in the hometown in which we grew up in. You don't anymore, but you live.
I got a few warrants there. I had to get out.
Well, one of the things that I think I do sometimes for you, Jess, is kind of keep you anchored to the city in which you grew up in, or the hometown that you grew up in. And about 3 weeks, maybe a month ago, I texted you and talked about, what is it about those houses in our community that, where all the home interiors decorations are on the outside and not so much on the inside. So we got a good laugh about that. The plastic floral vases, on the front porch connected to the brick wall. And then just 10 feet away in the landscaping is this big ball on a pedestal. Well, we grew up with those, and those in some ways, for some families, meant you made it. That was like the ultimate, house decor. That was kind of regal for some families, and we chuckle about it and think, what the hell is that? Well, not until recently did I realize that there was a true name for those, and those are gazing balls. And so we laughed about that. And in fact, gazing balls almost help, give us inspiration for the name of this podcast, but we turned away from that. We knew better. We thought, well, we'll save that for a conversation. But
yeah, I've done a few gazing balls whether I wanted to or not. I've been in too many gym locker rooms, whether you want to witness gazing balls, especially old guys, because when you get old, your ball sack just turns the size of a goat. This looks like a purple fist sticking out when they bend down to pick their shoes up.
Well, I'm gonna plead the fifth on that. I will say I have a son who is an avid gym rat, and he definitely had some opinions about that. I think the time has come where, we need to be a little bit more modest in the gym, but that doesn't always happen still in this day and age. Seems like once you get past 50, it's like no holds barred or no balls hold. I don't know what that's called.
Well, in the military, it's balls out. like literally and figuratively. It's there's coin purses everywhere. You go to the gym. I mean, basic training. We're all naked around each other and all that. So you just gotta, you just kind of get immune to it, I guess.
My brother-in-law told me a story one time, and I just couldn't, as modest as I am. I remember a story, him telling us one of the most difficult things for him in basic training was to not have a full wall in the bathroom. So, here, if there are multiple men in the stalls, you could just literally, look 45 degrees to your right or left, and there's somebody staring you eye to eye while you're doing your business. And I thought to myself, surely, is that required? Is that because facility, funding low? What's happening there? But he said, I swear it was just part of it. So.
Yeah, the modesty's gone.
Modesty's gone. Yep, I've heard that.
It's you got to have a wild sense of humor too. So I think that's where I excelled. I was pretty much just crazy from the word go. So I fit in pretty well.
Well, we have a fan and a mutual acquaintance who has also served his country, who may be listening to our podcast, as well as my brother-in-law. And so to all those veterans and all those who have served, I want to say thank you and just acknowledge for all that craziness. As much as we're laughing, it is an important thing to acknowledge. We've got some pretty good group of men in our family, and wanted to acknowledge that today. So thanks, Bob.
Yeah, for sure. Right on. Yeah, I was back to the weird ass shiny balls and people's cards. I always thought they were called moon balls. And another term that moon ball is used in a lot is like a arching pass in football, or I always thought like maybe an air ball in basketball. I'm a big Tecmo Bowl fanatic, so I got to get that shot in. Tecmo Bowl, the best football video game ever made. Any viewers out there agree or disagree to that? Bo Jackson. But anyway, one of the worst quarterbacks on there was a guy for the New England Patriots, because the game was published in '92, and he would always overthrow his receiver, old Grogan. And moonball was just a term that's used on all of the Tecmo Bowl forums and all the fanboys of Tecmo Bowl. So an overthrown pass or a shiny ball in the front yard, moonball. I went into a sporting goods store one time at Offutt Air Force Base. I went into one, I just opened it, and there was a signed Grogan New England Patriots jersey, the old reddish orange, framed up and pressed. And I was going cuckoo over it, but the lady didn't know. She was proud to have it because she was a Grogan fan, but I thought it was the shit because Grogan was so bad at Tecmo Bowl. I was like, man, how in the world did you get this? But yeah, old Grogan. He had a weird looking shaped head and a odd looking neck on him too.
Well, I can't speak to that other than, I played, that was probably the last form of a video game that I could even potentially master, because as you remember growing up, once you got into all the gaming systems, and that's how much I'm a gamer, I'm using those generic terms, but Atari, and then we went to tell me the progression. But at any rate, every time we try to play, I will never forget. You know, I really wanted to try to connect and play this game. And here's Jesse, give me this control. And I'd ask, you know, well, which is up and down, and how do I shoot, and where do I go? And, you know, it was like this guy had already mastered it, but he was getting annoyed because I was asking about how to play this game and how to use the remote. And so needless to say, our connection in gaming didn't last very long because can I admit here and now, you were a terrible teacher. And
well, it's not, no one does that. Like, you don't, like, it's just video game culture. You just pick up the sticks and you just go till you learn. Like, maybe ask like one or two things, but like I've never like gotten the button run down from anyone. So I guess it's a different culture, I suppose.
Well, I was waiting for the full instruction, and that didn't happen. And the way I do things, it's like, okay, since I didn't get the full rule book, I'm not playing. Same thing when you walk through, I don't know, you know, anybody who lives in a town that's got a casino. Quick example, we have a casino in our town. And for the life of me, we don't have live dealers. You know, this is all automated, and they've got slot machines and that sort of thing. And for the life of me, I never could understand. I'm not a huge gambler, but if I expect to lose a certain amount, I'll play. But I am the one who stands back and tries to figure out how to play the slot machine. You know, people are like, Kelly, just push these buttons. What are you doing? What are you waiting for? So, you know, needless to say, I'm not going to win or lose much on a slot machine because I just, you know, that's just not how I'm made. But maybe it's kind of the same thing. I don't know. I got on a casino slot machine, but
yeah, I'm not much of a gambler. If the Coke machine takes my dollar, I lose sleep.
Oh yeah.
I went to Vegas one time and I was $60 up on a blackjack table, and I left, and I went back the next day and lost it. And then that was kind of it for me.
Jesse, that I can't tell you, that was almost my same identical story. Went to Vegas, decided I was going to play blackjack, even upped my game, and back then played a $5 table. You know, I'm thinking that's high dollar for me. I won $75, and then I thought, well, let me just try to, you know, win about 50% more, and I'll be happy. Let me leave here with about $125. Well, I promptly lost $75, and I was out. So my threshold was 75, apparently.
Yeah, it was wild times. I could tell you, that's another thing. I've been to Vegas 4 times, and good Lord. And
do you remember it?
I remember some of it. There was one time I got completely fucked up on these an old Mexican fella deployed with me as a master sergeant, and this other Hispanic guy from Brooklyn. And they introduced me to Wild Turkey, and I was drinking. I was sitting in my room drinking mason jars full of Monster Energy and Wild Turkey. And then the next thing I know, I'm roaming around on foot in the streets of Vegas, just drinking beer. I don't even know where I got it from, and just throwing the bottles, just throwing them, like either shattering them on a post or just throwing them out in traffic, just roaming around. And I remember coming to, and like I'd be on the strip, then I'd kind of fade out, and I'd come to, and I'd be at like a construction site. Then I'd fade out, and I'd come to again, and I'd be walking through like a dilapidated part of the neighborhood where the windows are boarded up and everything. And then I was punching through, you know, the newspaper stands where you like put your money in and you pull out the newspaper.
Yeah.
I was just punching clean through the glass of those.
Oh my God.
And I don't know who found me and brought me back, but I woke up the next day in the room. It was like a scene from that movie. What's that Nicolas Cage movie where he sells guns to all those people in Malaysia? And then he loses his mind and just goes on this like drunken stupor walk and comes across like wild shit, but like nothing happens to him because he's so low. Like he come on them.
Yeah, I know the movie you're talking about.
Yeah, he come up
Jennifer
on
Jason Leigh was in it, I think.
Yeah, he come up on the pack of wolves and they didn't mess with him and so forth and so on. It was crazy. Just a lot of Vegas stories. We had a guy die one time on a Vegas trip. He had a bad ticker and he drank too much.
Oh wow.
And I wouldn't go out playing golf with him. I stayed in the room and watched football. There was a triple header of NFL football on that day. So the other three guys went out drinking and partying and golfing, and this guy drank a couple cases of Guinness and did the hot wing challenge. And he threw up the hot wings all over the van because we traveled in this big barge, like this big 15-person van, all these Air Force guys. And he threw up all over the van, went back up to his room and just died in the tub. And they never cleaned the puke up. So we're riding around with this dead guy's puke in the van for the rest of the trip. Just wild. Yeah, he just had a bad heart and he just drank too much and just slumped down in the tub and died.
It got really serious really quickly. I thought there might be a happy ending to that story, but or some kind of.
Well, that's just something it's something you remember and think about. Just wild stuff.
Yeah, that's well, I would say that the two times I went to so I had the both extreme. The first time I went to Las Vegas, it was practically on a bus tour of people 55 and older. So near I was like 25. So it was like kind of a cruel joke in a way because I went with some family. And so my first experience was not what Vegas should have been for a 25-year-old or maybe a 20-something. And then the second time I went with Seth, my husband, and similar story. It was kind of like, we were just kind of floating through time and space. And I guess we went with a couple, but we rarely saw that couple. They were staying at a different hotel, but we flew together and we would run into them like just in fate, and we didn't plan it. No one texted one another or called one another back then. It was just like we would show up. And the one thing I remember is I didn't know the wife of this couple very well, but back then, was it like Jaeger bombs were really popular with help me with the energy drink and Jägermeister anyway. So then the next thing I know, we were like dancing on the bar like at Coyote Ugly. And then we never saw them the rest of the trip until we met at the airport and we were ready to go. So they were like these flashes where we danced on the bar and then we saw them again at the Tropicana. And then like 2 days later, we saw them in the airport and we were heading home. So that was my second Vegas trip.
Yeah, Vegas is crazy, man. You go into a casino in the daylight and you come out and it's daylight, but the calendar's different.
Oh, it's crazy.
And
I
mean?
You're eating just like at all hours of the night, and you're not sure if it's morning. Should I be eating breakfast or should I be eating crab legs? And should I ever be eating crab legs at this, bar of food? But the one thing back then is my husband was smoking at the time, unfortunately, but at that you could go into any shopping space in any hotel with a cigarette and a beer. It was like the weirdest, experience, and you felt like this was like an alternate universe for any other place in the United States. But it was just like they say, no holds barred, and What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah, that's pretty much anything goes. It's crazy. When the military sent me there, every day you got a per diem, which was like extra money to eat on, and it was always relatively a high amount of money, and a lot of these guys would take these trips away from their family, these little deployments, and they'd end up, instead of saving money, they'd gamble all their per diem away. And I remember guys in the back of the van calling their wives, sobbing, and wives threatening to change the locks. And I mean, I've seen some ugly shit from gambling. People supposed to go there and live on a loaf of bread and them Carl Bunning meat slices. Try to take some of that per diem home. And some of these guys just squandered it. They just got sucked up in the machine. Just crazy situations.
How long ago was that for you, Jess?
Oh, let's see. It's early on in my Air Force career. Let's see. I joined in 2006. Around 2009, I think I went like 3 times, like back to back within a course of a couple of months. And then my first time going, I think, was I could tell you my first time. When did the Bears play the Colts in the Super Bowl? Because I watched it in a hotel room in Vegas. Whenever that was.
I have no idea.
Peyton Manning hoisted that trophy, and I started crying. I'm not gonna lie to you. I do get emotional over football. I get that electricity in my body, and my hair stands up. And I told him, I said, man, I don't want to miss that game. I grew up in Indiana, and I got the Bears and the Colts in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 41. I watched it in a Vegas hotel. One thing that you'll appreciate from that Super Bowl is it had the best halftime show ever. Prince sang "Purple Rain" in the rain. I don't know if you remember that, but that was
absolutely. I remember.
Yeah, he nailed it. That's been the best halftime show, in my opinion, of all of them. I mean, it was on point. So whenever that was my first out, and then I went, real close, boom, 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 in the course of about 2.5 months there. It was like around January, February, March time of probably 09. I don't know. I just moved into a place, and I remember I had just enough time to tack up some old pull-down blinds so I could walk from the shower to the living room and back naked. And I took off, and it was a grind. Like, after Vegas is fun for a few days, then after that it's just like, get me out of here. You gotta be tough just to keep up with it. And I imagine the people that live in Nevada probably can't stand Las Vegas. I just couldn't imagine. I do like me some In-N-Out Burger, though. Did you ever eat there?
I've eaten there once, but it was actually, I think, in San Diego. So, for me, it was fairly unremarkable. So, no offense to anybody who really, if you dug it, great. But I don't even remember it. So, So
yeah, you got to get that secret menu. I forget what the words are. You can get like triple meat, animal style, with them loaded fries and a shake.
So they actually have like code words or whatever.
Yeah. You got to know the hidden words, and you get all the fixings.
Penguin Point has that. So if anybody grew up in Penguin Point, knowing what Penguin Point is, and I don't know if that's ever outside of Indiana, but I can tell you that It originated, I believe, in a town, or at least a Wabash County, I think, in Indiana. I'd have to check my stats on that or my information, but growing up where I did in Indiana, and Jesse and I, in our town, we had a Penguin Point, and I didn't realize that they have secret code words, and I didn't know that. So you can get like literally a beef Manhattan essentially, but you have to ask for it in the Penguin Point code to get it. But there's still a few of them left up in northern Indiana that we frequent from time to time when we head up to the lake. So that's another Indiana thing. And I'm sure other states, obviously Michigan, and heading up to the lakes is kind of an Indiana or a Midwestern term that some who are from here know about. We've been spending the last 6 or 7 years up at a particular lake that, you know, if you're not around a big body of water and you're kind of landlocked for the most part in the Midwest, anytime you can gravitate toward a body of water, it kind of soothes your soul. And I realize for us why people live near the ocean, but for us, our ocean is Lake Tippecanoe. So.
Right on. Yeah, I was I think in Texas, the big one's Whataburger. I don't know if you've ever ate a Whataburger.
Now, I've eaten a Whataburger, and it was actually in the, well, it was when I went to visit you, Jess. It was at the, did I fly into Dallas? Is that where I flew in?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Fort Worth. Was it DFW? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It was the DFW, or the main Dallas hub. At any rate, that's where I ate Whataburger, and very oniony, very good. In fact, probably more enjoyable or memorable than In-N-Out for me. So I enjoyed the Whataburger.
Yeah, that's kind of the tourist attraction. people like them some Whataburger. Yeah.
Well, that's like, so, you know, also where we are is White Castle, which, by the way, was the first job I ever had as a 16-year-old. That's kind of a funny story. When I was actually 15, just about to turn 16, and probably I don't know, junior in high school, sophomore, junior. White Castle is, you know, for those who are not from this region, maybe from the southern part, they're like crystals, those little small sandwiches that are really soggy and oniony, and you know, really just kind of melt in your mouth. They're not really much to speak of. They're really thin patties. But anyway, I worked at White Castle for almost 4 years, all through, I can't believe it, from the time I was in high school all the way to maybe a year or so into college. And I remember when we first hired on, you had to interview at the local Sheraton, which was a local hotel, which really was kind of a bad scene in its later years. But they had like a career fair, and I was 15 years old, and I put on what I thought was like interview attire, which I can't even tell you what it was, but it wasn't jeans, but it was not much above that. So I show up and put my application in. I have no history, of course, but they gobble us up, at least 15, 16-year-olds, because what they do is, because we didn't have our store built yet, we literally would meet out on the south side of town, the old Applewood parking lot, file into this big van, and there'd be kids from our hometown, Anderson, LaPel, Frankton, all these county schools, these students. We'd get into the van, and we'd drive down an hour one way to go to a store in Indianapolis to train for maybe another hour, because we'd have to, you know, get home from school, meet on the south side, file into this van. I don't even know who drove us. You know, I don't know if there are waivers signed, but whoever the trainers were, they drove us all down. We get down there, and of course, because we have to eat, because, you know, labor laws say that we have to have a dinner break, because we've been pretty much at school all day. I'll never forget, I used to think that White Castle was like so deplorable. It would stink up your car, oniony. I hated that smell. You get down there, you're starving because you've been at school all day. That's when I learned that White Castles were pretty dang good. And so 15, 16-year-old, I probably didn't even weigh $110, but I'm eating like 3 double cheeseburgers and anything on the menu that I could gobble up in a 30-minute meal break. And then you'd work a little bit more and load up and come home. But all that to say, every town, every region has its favorite burger. And for us to bring home a sack of 10, if you grew up when I did, you'd have to go to Indianapolis and then you'd come home with your sack of 10 and your car would stink for the next 3 days.
Oh yeah, we hit up that White Castle, first one we come to every time we visit home. Oh, we love it. I'd introduce as many people to it as I could. You got to get that cardboard briefcase.
Yep.
Full of them suckers, and just, man, you talk about the steamy walking farts. Goodness gracious.
Listen, I wasn't going to go there. You can take all that.
Oh all yeah, you get Dutch oven, your significant other. It's so bad you almost got to brush your teeth. Gas.
Yeah.
Burns your eyes.
Hamburgers, but you meant the gas. That's funny.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely it will coat some walls and some blankets, and you'll know the next day that there was White Castles inhaled.
Oh yeah, and exhaled.
And exhaled.
Yeah, good times. I like that orange dip they got for those onion petals. Man, that's good.
Oh yeah, so onion chips or onion petals, yeah. So that's definitely a side. I mean, there's kind of a battle at our house. French fries are kind of a thing. Like, who has the best French fries? And I'm kind of a classic McDonald's French fry girl. I just always have been, and then my household is kind of divided. The White Castle French fries or the Penguin Point French fries were those soggy accordions that I never cared for, but they, my household is divided. They like the soggy accordion. So, but for me, the onion chip is always the preferred side. White Castle for sure.
Gotta get that large onion chip.
For a while, I even dabbled in getting the fish with cheese. Have you ever had the fish with cheese?
No, I've the wildest I ever got there for a while. I don't know if they have it or not, but they had a jalapeno cheeseburger for a bit.
Oh, I never tried that.
I hammered out a bunch of those on a road trip one time. God almighty. We were rolling the windows down.
Well, I was so entrenched in that job, or at least it was what I knew for that, those 3 to 4 years. Believe it or not, when I was a freshman at Ball State University, I was in my intro to speech class, and we had to give an informative speech, and they wanted us to have some props to go along with the subject matter. Would you believe that I taught my class how to make a 30 grill top of White Castles? Literally bought pink sponge, cut it down, put 5 holes in each of them. So I had some burger patties to show them. And then, of course, cut down some regular buns to small size, made some paper confetti for the onions. And I showed them how to make a 30 top of White Castles.
That's A plus, extra credit.
And I had to get really serious the next one, so I can't remember, but it was something about Nelson Mandela and apartheid during that time. So we definitely went from something very elementary and very, to something very serious. But yeah, the White Castle demonstration was the highlight of that class, I think.
Speaking of that, everybody Google the Mandela effect.
Oh gosh.
Enjoy that. You know, there was never a wizard movie with Sinbad. Mind blown right now. All you folks
check it out,
out there
everybody.
about 40 years old.
He is not lying.
No, Sinbad never did a wizard movie. Never did.
But I wish I could think of more, but yeah, we've been down that whole list. Yeah, check out the Mandela effect.
We can even talk about that sometime. We're hitting the end of our road here, our journey. I just wanted to touch on a few things, and then I'll give it back to you in closing. This weekend, Friday night, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships having a badass card. I suggest get the app. It's about $6 a month. Loaded bare knuckle boxing. Paige Van Zant's fighting somebody she fought in the UFC. It's gonna be killer, bloodbath. You can't beat it. It's 15 fights on the card, $6 a month, and if they run once or twice a month, that's only $3 to $6 a show. Watch UFC and boxing, like $70. I mean, you can't beat it. I wanted to touch on something we talked about last week. Remember, we were talking about college players getting paid. Mm-hmm. There's a kid straight out of high school ain't took a snap for Alabama, and he's already up to $1 million worth of advertising.
Wow.
Just something to think about right out of high school, right? I want to touch on a few more things. Veterans. I'm a veteran. Be nice to your veterans. Treat them good. Take care of your mental health. Look after each other. It's important your mental health is good. And autism awareness. My little boy Eli has autism. Learn about autism, inclusion, and facts about autism. It's tough, but he's a sweet kid, and he's doing good, and I'm awful proud of him, and I love him. We got social media up and running. I finally got off my ass and got some of these Twitters going. We got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat. And if you search for SameDadPodcast in any of those, they'll pop up. And I also have them in the link of the YouTube video or of our YouTube site. I'm also using Anchor.com to produce this podcast out to the big boys of the podcast world. So we're on Spotify. We got a profile on Apple iTunes, and then there's like 7 or 8 other ones that Anchor is going to slowly distribute these out to. So we have a lot of social media. We got a Facebook page, Same Dad Podcast. I don't know. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Kellie, here at the end?
You know, you've really run through, I think, some important things to keep in mind and kind of, be tuned into. What I do want to say is, I think it's important that we understand the importance of vaccinations. This has been an unusual 18 months in the last experiencing this pandemic, and what's happened is, our kids are behind on immunizations. I think it's important to learn what those mean. Please understand what the vaccination for COVID could do for your family. I know there's a lot of confusion and concern, and just educate yourself on what that means to help us thwart this pandemic. Wanted to give a shout out to my husband, who is going to be going through some important testing coming up this Monday, which again circles me back to vaccinations. He's battled throat cancer this last 6-7 months, and We're hoping for a clean bill of health on Monday, but it's important to understand the importance of the HPV vaccination. Get more information on that. It's important to understand how that can prevent certain preventable cancers. And so with that, Jesse, I think we've mentioned some pretty important issues, and just wanted to sign off for this evening and say great.
Before I forget, what did the bike say to the kickstand?
What?
Hold me up, I'm too tired. That and a song. I'm gonna pick out a song for everybody. Rock, Salt, and Nails by Willie Watson. I think Waylon Jennings sang it first, but this dude's cover, it'll make you time travel. I mean, it's good.
Say his name again. Rock, Salt, and Nails by who's got it out now?
Willie Watson.
Willie Watson. Okay.
Yeah, get in on some of that. I might even end up posting my playlist up on a link up on our YouTube site. I'm pretty proud of my music playlist. We'll see. Maybe let y'all know what's jarring around in my mind.
All right, Bub. Well, it was good talking to you tonight, and we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, I think this is a success. We're up to 4 subscribers and like 21 views in 5 days. So I appreciate y'all, and we're going to keep doing this. Look for us on those social media platforms. Hit the like buttons, subscribe, get that little bell so you'll know when we post another episode. And everybody love everybody.